The third book of the Torah opens with a simple yet profound word, Vayikra, and he called. Unlike other instances in the Torah where God speaks or says, here God calls to Moses from the tent of meeting. This distinction is not incidental. A call is more than a statement. It is an invitation, a summoning, a moment of intimacy. A call suggests urgency and purpose, and it demands a response. In our English vernacular, a calling is often associated with choosing a profession. However, a calling is not merely a career path or personal ambition. A calling is a deep and personal summons for purpose and an inner voice that compels us toward meaning and contribution. A calling can emerge from faith, from moral responsibility, from our personal talents, or even the whispers of the universe nudging us toward growth. It requires attentiveness, courage, and the willing to say, Hineni, here I am. In Jewish thought, a calling is not always grand or mystical. It can be as simple as an opportunity to do good, to serve, to heal, or to learn. The challenge is not whether we have a calling, but whether we are willing to listen and act upon it. We believe that each being is called, and it is not something limited to prophets or priests. Every soul is placed in this world for a reason. Every person is constantly being called to do kindness, to do justice, to bring truth, and to do some healing to the world. The real question is, how do we discern the voice calling us? One of the striking elements of the word Vayikra is that in the Torah, it has no stated subject. It is something like empty, called Moses. It does not explicitly says that God called. We infer from the context. The absence of the subject suggests that the calling itself emerges from a place beyond definition, from the vastness of existence, from the emptiness that contains all potential. The word Vayikra has a small tiny aleph at the end, and this reinforces this idea. It is the almost imperceptible, yet it signifies the infinite, the divine that is both everywhere and nowhere, always calling, waiting for us to listen. To hear this call, we must make space for it. In a world filled with noise, with distractions and constant demands, we need a vessel, a home within ourselves to receive this calling, to listen the sound of this tiny aleph. Just as the tabernacle was built to house the divine's presence, we must create an internal sanctuary, a heart open to awe, a mind attuned to wisdom, and a soul ready to respond. Just as God called Moses, God continues to call to each of us in different ways, through Torah, through moments of inspiration, through the stillness of our hearts. The challenge is tuning in. Do we make space in our lives for silence, for reflection, for prayer, or are we too distracted to hear? We are called by the needs of the world around us. I once heard a beautiful expression that injustice calls for righteousness, loneliness calls for companionship, pain calls for healing. Do we answer? When we see someone in need, do we step forward or we turn away? Each of us has gifts. Each of us has passions and a unique path. Sometimes our calling whispers to us as a dream we've been too afraid to pursue or as a talent that we have neglected. Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, Zichrono Libracha, wrote that our personal mission is, quote, where what we do best meets what the world needs most. Are we attuned to that voice? Do we nurture it, or do we silence it with doubt and fear? The Midrash in Vayikra Rabbah tells us that God's voice, the calling, never really stopped. It is we who have stopped listening. We must reawake our awareness to that divine nudge. Moses' response to Vayikra was not immediate action, but attention. He heard, he listened, Often we assume that our calling must come with a dramatic revelation, but in reality, it begins with noticing. Noticing where we are needing. Noticing where our heart is pulled. Noticing what brings us joy and meaning. How do we answer the call? Our tradition gives us different answers. We can do it through prayer and study, and engaging with Torah. These can refine our awareness of what we're being called forward. Or with personal prayer, hitbodedut. This allows us to hear the voice of our own soul. Or acts of kindness. Sometimes answering the call begins with a single act, visiting someone, a phone call, a choice to give rather than withhold. And through courage. The greatest callings often lie just beyond our comfort zone. Answering requires faith. We do not need to wait for a miraculous sign. We need to open our eyes to the opportunities before us. Also, a calling is not static. As we grow, our calling may evolve. The same Moses who hesitated at the burning bush became the leader who guided a whole nation. Our willingness to adapt and embrace new roles allows us to continuously respond to life's ever-changing calls. The book of Leviticus begins with a call, but it is not just Moses' call, it is ours. The world is filled with voices, but among them is one that is meant uniquely for us. What is calling you? How will you answer? May we all merit to hear the call in our own lives and respond with open hearts and willing souls.